I'm James White, co-founder of Common Sensing, and today I'm going to tell you how GoCap is changing injectable medicine. But first, I want to tell you our origin story. Richard Wally and I, the other co-founder of Common Sensing, went to college together, but 2 years after we graduated, we went to a Media Lab health and wellness hackathon. And there, we got to talk to a lot of clinicians about what was wrong in diabetes, specifically. And every one of them gave us similar feedback. It all involved insulin. Patients they were treating with insulin had a lot more issues. And so what I want to ask the crowd right now is, who knows someone who takes insulin? All right, I want you to go to those people and congratulate them for doing such a difficult thing every day. The people we talked to have told us a ton, but the stats speak pretty loudly too. 62% of insulin users drop off within 3 months of initiating insulin. Reasons include the complexity of the regimen, side effects, memory, supplies, and tools. And with the 8 million insulin users in the United States, that leads to about $4 billion in extra costs. And when we talk to clinicians at the Joslin Diabetes Center, they say there's absolutely nothing. When I look at the numbers, I need to guess what's happening here. And by the numbers, they mean the diagnostic numbers. By what's happening here, they mean what are people doing with insulin at home? They don't know. So Rich and I asked, well, how are people using insulin today? And it turns out that a huge portion of the injectable medicine market is delivered in devices, my microphone, called disposable injection pens. And so around the world, something like 50 million people are using these every day for treatments including diabetes, fertility, growth, and they're high impact, high cost issues. And when they fail, it's also high impact and high cost. And we said, if these drugs are so important, why are we missing the data of how people are using these at home? And so Rich and I said, well, if we're missing that data, we've got to just measure it. That's common sense, right? So we founded Common Sensing, and we created a device and a system that we call GoCap. Now, GoCap is more than just a cap that fits on an insulin pen and measures every dose in time, because we realized that you had to go a step farther than that to really produce the outcomes that the space deserves. We measure how people use their insulin and other injectable medicines as they use it, but then we analyze that to ask really burning questions. Some are simple, like, did I take it recently or not? Or how much insulin do I have left? When am I going to run out? But some are more complicated, like my patient that's coming in tomorrow, should I work on their adherence or should I change their dose? And if I do, by how much? Or maybe, which of my beneficiaries are going to cost the most over the next year? These are questions that we can answer now. If it's common sense, though, why isn't there something already out there like this? And we've seen some technologies that are similar, but I want to tell you how we're different. So there are technologies that replace this entire pen. But the issue with that is not only do you disrupt the current supply of insulin, because this is the most popular form of distributing insulin today, but also you force people to use it in an entirely different way. Right now, somebody just takes off the cap that comes with their insulin pen and uses ours instead. That's it. There's also other devices that help people remember when to take their insulin, but they're basically timers that you put on the insulin pen. They don't log like we do, and we log every dose. Additionally, we're FDA listed, 510(k) exempt, and registered last June. We have 6 US granted patents on the sensing technology, as well as protection in Europe and Asia. And we're also the first device with clinical evidence on detecting insulin injection issues. We knew that the clinician and the user experience were going to be key from day one. So we've tested with over 200 GoCap patients, logged 10,000 doses to date or more now, with 16 to 90-year-old patients. We also, last year, started our first clinical study at the Joslin Diabetes Center to see if we could identify some of these crazy insulin issues that we had heard about from so many clinicians. And we were astounded at the results. And it hasn't even finished yet. But for all the patients that we've put on it, we provided new insights, and even adherent users, so even people that the clinicians thought were doing great, we found that every once in a while they would have a dangerous event, or they would be taking it at the wrong time. And we're actually presenting those results tomorrow at the American Diabetes Association conference for the first time. Additionally, we've started risk stratification and triggered engagement programs and also diabetes management programs that we're now getting paid to generate that evidence. As we build more and more data, we're recognizing the value of it. But when we talk to clinicians, they say, well, sure, if you put someone in a study, they're going to do better. And we say, well, why not put everyone in the world on a GoCap study that's using an injector pen? The next thing they say is, who's going to pay for that? So we went out and looked. We said, who is this valuable to? And it turns out that almost every sector of the healthcare ecosystem benefits from people using injectables better. So the patient and the user and their family, they obviously feel the safety, empowerment, and health and happiness of using an injector correctly. But also, when people use injectors correctly, they normally use more. And pharma and diagnostics companies see that adherence driving their volume, but also they see the differentiation of a device like this driving their market share. When you go to the provider, we initially heard this problem coming from clinicians. They have someone come into their office and they don't know how they've been using insulin at home, and they have to make a potentially life-threatening decision of what insulin to give them next. We can drive efficiency with them making that decision by getting them summarized data of what they need before the patient even comes in. Additionally, once that patient is on the right dose and using it correctly, it's already been shown in lots of studies that when people use insulin correctly, their diabetes costs go way down. And of course, that's attractive to the payer. So we don't plan to charge the patient a cent. We are developing triangular business models with pharma and pharmacy and insurer IDM PBMs, where for the extra insulin that they're selling and the extra effectiveness of that treatment, we're taking part of the value from both of those companies into a $300 patient per year subscription model shared between those two entities. And to each of them, we can deliver a 10x ROI on their share of that cost. In the US, this is a $2.5 billion market per year, and it's our first beachhead. For that $300, we deliver devices, data, reporting, and engagement to each of the users that need it. To make this a reality, we've assembled an awesome team. They're sitting right there, but I'm putting their faces up here to embarrass them. And also a team of industry veterans, some of which are at ADA right now because the conference started today. But we've also assembled an investor group that's been extremely helpful: Waterline Ventures, Qualcomm Ventures, and Sanofi Ventures. And this summer, the team is raising a Series A for commercialization, a $5 million round. And the funds will be used to, one, commercialize GoCap, get this out to 300,000 users over the next 2 years into 2020, strengthen to the decision and engagement offering that we're providing, which is largely a software and user experience effort to increase the value that we provide to clinicians and pharmacists. And three, develop next generation hardware. We made this in-house, and we know how we can make it a lot better. And so we'll be doing that with a hardware team and manufacturing efforts. Really, though, our vision is that every person 5 years from now that's using injectables is covered in smart injectable support from the time that they get prescribed an injector to their last dose. We want to see a world where people look back and they say, of course outcomes were that bad. They didn't have anything to help them using these devices. There's over $1 trillion that is at risk for people using injectable medicines around the world. And in the long term, we see our company becoming the primary manager of that risk through smart technology and smart services. If that sounds like a vision that you're interested in, that you have advice around, or if anything, any of these activities sound particularly applicable to your experience, come and get in touch with me. We're always looking for great advice, great team members, and thank you very much for your time.